Alaskans and Hawaiians of Reddit, what's the biggest difference between you and the rest of mainland USA? The fact that I brought my daughter home from the hospital on an ATV. That probably only applies to the Alaskan bush though. The biggest difference is the price for things like groceries is way higher, and if the barge doesn't come on time, stores can have entire aisles that are empty. Bushmail my dude. The cost of everyday items. A pack of pens in Kodiak, Alaska, like 3 crappy Bic pens, are nearly $10, sometimes more. I was born and raised in Alaska, but my mom got a place on the Big Island when I was 10, so I have been to Hawaii a lot too. Here are some things about both places. Your property is your property. Both places are known for being difficult places to try and move to if you aren't from there. Isolation, employment, weather and daylight change for Alaska. Both places are very accepting to outsiders if you are respectable and chill, but very hasty to outsiders if you disrespect the state. Both places have pride in not being connected to the 48 states. Both places have an intense love-hate relationships for tourists. And outside of the villages in AK and the smaller islands on high, both places are not that much more expensive for goods. Costco, Walmart, Target prices are not much higher than the states, and if you are smart you use Amazon Prime for everything. They honor their free shipping to both states. Pretty cool to hear from somebody from both places. Born and raised in Hawaii, but I'm white, and have also lived on the mainland. Biggest differences. 1. Hawaii is a lot smaller than other places, and I do not just mean in size or population. I have a coworker that 9 times out of 10, even with people she has just met, if they are a local from Hawaii, she knows someone that knows them. It's a running joke now. 2. Kissing people you have just met on the cheek instead of shaking their hand. 3. I wear slippers to work and walk around barefoot most of the day. 4. If you are above average in height, expect to see it and hear it or be questioned about it more than you ever would anywhere else. 5. It's rare that people from Hawaii can read maps or know the 4 principal directions. We give driving directions by finding the closest landmark the person knows and give directions from there. On Oahu, the 4 principal directions are Mauka, to the mountains, Maka, to the sea, Diamond Head, or Townside East, and Ua, or Wainara Kapolari West. 6. We love spam. On the mainland, it's poor people food. Here, fry it up with some shoyu, soy sauce, and put it with white sticky rice and seaweed wrapped around it. The magic of musubi. Even McDonald's here has spam and rice for breakfast. We eat more spam than the mainland combined. We even have a spam festival. One difference that I'm surprised hasn't been mentioned yet is right in your title. Alaskans and Hawaiians of Reddit, what's the biggest difference between you and the rest of mainland USA? Here in Hawaii, the term Hawaiian only refers to native Hawaiians. It can't be used the same way that Californian refers to someone who hails from California. Someone who grew up here but isn't native Hawaiian is a local, Kamaina, or even just from Hawaii. If you ask someone from here, are you Hawaiian? They will say no unless they have native ancestry. I moved from Kansas to Anchorage, AK 4 years ago. It's honestly not that different here. Anchorage is definitely Alaska in easy mode, though. It's pretty much just like any other big city. Most of the differences I've noticed are things like the weather, the increased cost of living, and the change in wildlife. Stuff you'd see in just about any big move. Though I do like the fact that there's nothing small and dangerous here. I'm much less concerned about a bear than I was snakes and spiders that could be hiding just about anywhere. I've noticed 3 real cultural differences. There are a lot more guns around up here, both because the place is quite pro-guns in a libertarian way, and because they're more necessary. We had guns on the farm where I grew up, but they weren't culturally significant. We had them because there were dangerous animals around and sometimes you had to deal with that. Up here there's more of a gun culture, or at least I see it more. I see people wearing pistols fairly regularly just around town, but I don't recall ever seeing that in Kansas. People have guns for when they go hiking. Bear guns, as they are called up here, which means a large pistol, but they also just carry them for no real reason I've been able to find. There's also a lot more native people up here. They're Native Alaskan, not Native American or Indian. I'm not sure why Native American is considered a slur to them. I'm used to a large Hispanic community, but that doesn't really exist up here in any meaningful size. Oh, and customer service in Alaska is just crap. Seriously awful. People ignore you in stores. Contractors make an appointment and then show up hours late or never at all. People do a half-assed job with everything. It's ridiculous. Coming from someone who lives on Oahu, other islands are similar but there are some extreme differences as well. Locals speak pidgin English. Business attire is considered aloha shirt and pants. Food, people know what your ethnicity is. Won't instantly speak Spanish just because you have dark skin. We do have aloha spirit, but we also have locals that usually put a target on tourists. Very territorial. Just respect our island, surroundings, resources, and culture, and it's aloha served daily. Expensive. Milk is sometimes over $10. Throw shakus. Food, if you're out a lot, everyone tends to know everyone through someone. We live on a rock, so many Toyota Tacomas. There's not really any seasons. Board shorts and slippers is the usual standard. It's a mixing pot of many different cultures. Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, etc. There's many ways of looking at things with a city aspect and country aspect. When you go to the mainland and state you're from Hawaii, 8/10 mainlanders will lose their crap. If you see another Hawaii person on the mainland, you'll instantly know and throw the shaka or give the head nod smirk. Holy crap, the Tacomas. I just got back from a trip to Hawaii for the first time and was surprised at the percentage of vehicles that were usually lifted. Toyota Tacomas. It was like 40%. Alaskans call snowmobiles snow machines. Lower 48ers call snow machines snowmobiles. Over here in Hawaii, CVS is called longs. People are nice to each other in general, not really the kids though. Something wrong with that generation. They disrespectful a lot. Prices for housing and food. Teachers here get paid what? About $20K a year. Add in cost of living and to be on par with teachers on the mainland they should be paid about $100K a year. Food served here. For example, at McDonald's they serve spam, rice, salmon, guava and taro pies, etc. Lots of food here not sold on the mainland such as Maui chips. Wildlife. Here, lots of chickens and stray cats are everywhere. Probably how reliant we are on the US for food and supplies. Also, our two main sources of income is military and tourism. Used to be agriculture as well with sugarcane and pineapples, but not really anymore. Lots and lots of hiking trails. My favorite is the Kalaloa and Kauai. Not much direction giving, I guess. Most of the time we just base directions off of big landmarks such as Costco. If you're in Malilani Waipio area, not much stuff like go on highway XXX, take exit XXXXX. Slippers equals flip-flops, and no one wears footwear in the house. Not really any racism here, as Hawaii is a melting pot of races. Southeast Alaskan here. I'm not from a frozen wasteland. I'm from a fricking rainforest. The distance from where I grew up to Anchorage is the same as Chicago to the Florida-Georgia coast. I don't even think a lot of Alaskans realize how diverse the geography is in our state. Moving from one town to the next is literally the equivalent of a cross-country move, including the change in weather and nature. In Hawaii it's totally acceptable to address people by their race since it's such a diverse makeup. The untouched wilderness of my home in AK is phenomenal. I live in SEAK, which spans 500 miles, north to south, of pristine old growth on an archipelago. The best times in my life have been spending a weekend alone kayaking to some random island miles away from home for a bit of exploration and a bit of relaxation. Also, there are like 1 million grizzly bears. The fact I could sell my $700 crap car for $2,000 here, paying $20 shipping for a $10 trillion shirt from Seattle, going to Canada for a quick drink at 19, and the insanity that is living and going to school somewhere 3 towns over. Source: live born in Alaska, went to middle high school down south. Grew up in Hawaii. The comments about it on here so far are spot on, but here are a few other little things that my boyfriend, who grew up in the Midwest, found surprising. The local fauna is pretty different, not to mention the sea life. OFC, no squirrels, raccoons, snakes, to name a few. We do have mongooses, which were brought over to help eliminate rats, which are an invasive species on Hawaii, and were killing off the local birds. Too bad mongooses are diurnal, and rats nocturnal. Oops. We also have a lot of chickens. The schools in Hawaii aren't in large buildings, but are often made up of these 1 or 2 story long rows of classrooms. So basically you've got chickens running around everywhere, including on school campus. Extremely high cost of living means it's really hard to move out on your own. Most of my friends from high school who stayed on the island still live with their parents. And yes, everyone really is that diverse. I'm of Vietnamese, Polish, and Scots-Irish descent. My parents relocated the family to Hawaii from the East Coast right after I was born, and 2 of my older sisters, 14 and 15 at the time of the move, have said it was the best thing that ever happened to them. They had experienced some racism in the small town my mother was from, so moving to Hawaii was like night and day. The amount of spam they eat. Spam musubi the best, can't get enough of that. Oh, and how to scoop rice comes with dang near everything. Hawaii person here. People don't really honk their horns nearly as often as on the mainland. If someone honks their horn, it means they're really ticked off. The other night my Uber driver almost took a left turn at a green light without yielding to oncoming traffic, and almost smashed into the other 2 cars going forward, but nobody honked. They just shook their heads and motioned angrily and drove past. If you're on the freeway and hear somebody honk, everyone looks around like who the heck is honking? It better not be at me. Hawaii is culturally distinct from the states. It was a fully functioning monarchy, complete with its own palace, Aulani Palace, the only one in the country. Plus, the initial contact with whites was created by British, so the influence the British had helped shape the Isles. On top of it all, the main industry that shaped the economic future of the islands, sugar, imported workers from Portugal, Scotland, the Philippines, Japan and China. So you had a polyglot social formation that did not fall under a single cultural dominance. As a result, you get a society that's a lot more cosmopolitan, practical and pragmatic in terms of problem solving. Fun fact, the Aulani Palace had electricity before the White House. We think that people from Hawaii are a lot nicer than people from the mainland. I've been told that many times and I agree. When I worked at a restaurant, me and my co-workers would dread getting anyone who was clearly from the mainland because they tend to be extremely rude. Even my French teacher who moved here from the mainland said that she couldn't believe how much nicer the people were here. My husband was born and raised in Alaska, and we returned here 9 years ago after living in Seattle for 20 years. The biggest and most awesome difference I've noticed, as a non-native, is the spirit of most people here. There is a distinct mind your own business vibe, in the best way possible. I'd equate it to, if you get drunk, it's your business. If you get drunk and run over my dog, you make it my business. I love it. It's sort of an old-fashioned way of being. This seems to bleed over to other things. That is, the weird bossiness and tribalism that seems to occur in urban settings is absent. We also have zero traffic, clean air, and our on-island time for sure. Different pace. Many companies consider Hawaii international for shipping, and if it says they ship to the 48, it means frick you Hawaii. You pay overnight shipping costs and we'll get that overnight package to you in 3 days. Also, watching sports live means you take off work and hit the bar, usually with your boss. People from the rest of the mainland consider Hawaii locals as Hawaiian like Californian or Texan. Hawaii locals reserve the term Hawaiian for native Hawaiians. Born and raised Alaskan, people are friendlier, but many of us have little patience for tourists. Others are strange and choose to work in tourism. We love coffee and beer. Moose are only good for eating. They've made me late too many times for schoolwork and they are no longer novel. Lanky brown fricks. The winters aren't as extreme as you think. In south central Alaska, we'll get a minimum of 5-ish hours of daylight in the winter, and our summers gets weeks of daylight. Kids playing in the streets until midnight in the summer is common. There is a whole world of shopping available in the lower 48 that I had no idea existed. My poor credit card. In Fairbanks, Alaska, almost everyone knows everyone and their mothers. It's an extremely tight-knit community. I think it's almost by necessity considering the winter. On average it gets to 40 below or lower around winter solstice. So, it makes sense to pick up hitchhikers so they don't freeze to death. No billboards in high. Alaskan bullworms. They're everywhere. Back in Texas I wrangled bulls, and I wrangled worms. Far as I'm concerned, doing them both together just saves rope. One thing I've noticed growing up here is that while Alaska is a red state, it's definitely more of a I do my thing, you do yours. People here have a lot of diverse opinions on national issues, but generally seem to respect that others have different opinions. Also, we're way more diverse than you'd expect. 3 of the high schools in Anchorage are the most diverse in North America, which is really cool. The islands in Hawaii are almost as different as states. Oahu is so jam-packed and built up, tourists everywhere. The only true high-rises are here, as well as the only interstates. Behind tourism, the military is huge. Maui is all surf and hiking. Everyone does one or both. Some of the best surf, and the biggest. Few good snorkel spots. Haleakala dominates the topology. It's impressive to see from sea level. Has ton of trails. Most involve jumping off a cliff into water at some point. Ranging from a few feet to over 50. Good mix of laid back and work. The brewery is across the street from the supercomputer. The crater is the quietest place on Earth. Also there is either dust or rain in the wind. Big Island is really big, like more than half of the total land area of the state. It's a 2-hour drive between the 2 biggest cities, Hilo and Kona. Cows everywhere. 5th largest ranch in the US. Also the active volcanoes in the are on the South Sift. Common things include lots and lots of history. Tons of parks that were a battle, house, or road that was made during the Kingdom of Hawaii. It's cool to hike down a road path bridge that was built ages ago. Very unique food that never seems able to duplicate anywhere. Poke, shave ice, loco moco, it's all only right in the islands. Giant servings too. Huge respect for the Aina land. Littering is like the worst thing you can do. No plastic bags on the island and you pay for paper. Deposit on cans, bottles. Everyone is laid back and in no hurry. Accident on the only road to somewhere? Bust out the cooler and sit in the shade. Also tons of Toyotas, mostly lifted, but the fancier the lift less likely to off-road. Make it to the end of a 2-mile trail to a remote beach and there is a guy a stock CRV. The guys with the fancy 4x4 park on the road and walk. There's a monopoly on electricity on the Kenai Alaska Peninsula. Only one company so they can screw you however they like. Also, food is expensive. Like even the fish and seafood we commercially fish here, such as salmon and crab. I live in Anchorage, AK. I think the biggest difference is mostly the intensity of the wildlife. Just the other day I biked to my friend's house, and out the trees comes a fully grown bull moose. He was no more than 20 feet away from me. I booked it the other way and luckily he wasn't angry. He only trotted after me but just as easily could have charged after me. And there is almost always one black bear roaming through my neighborhood or the immediate area. Sometimes I forget how this was their land first. Alaskan here. What messes the uninitiated up is most definitely the day-night cycle. In the summer it stays light all the time, and in the winter it's dark all the time. I'd make the generalization that native Alaskans normalize this pretty quickly, and while lots of people know it's a thing, it still gives them pause. Also almost everyone I know flinches and or reaches for a firearm when someone says bear in anything other than a casual tone in the middle of a conversation about bears. Almost every street has a Hawaiian name, and I promise you your GPS does not pronounce it correctly. If you're white, you are and always will be the Haole. Every town has its own microclimate, which sounds normal because mainland towns are far apart, but it can be, and many times is, raining in one valley and sunny in another. Poke, try it, don't ask what it is, just try it. Most communities are not gated or even divided into subdivisions. There's just houses and streets. Except like Malilani and maybe some really nice neighborhoods in Black Point and Hawaii Lower Ridge. Parking spaces are small, like really tiny. Don't buy an F-150, except at Costco. Remove your shoes before going in someone else's house. I can't think of any others right now. I live in Michigan. but have spent my summers on Maui most of my life. Hawaiians seem to consider distance differently than people who live in a rural area like myself, because it is all relative. An hour drive for me isn't too bad, but to most Hawaiians this seems to be a trek because they are used to everything they need being close on an island. Also, everything is way more expensive. Island time is also very real. People are more laid back on Maui, but that could also be because of the type of person island life attracts. Ping. Hawaii is the perfect place to live if you have money, but you'll have like 70-80 ping to USW servers and over 100 to use. You have been visited by the snake of great corn. You will be blessed with corn for eternities to come, but only if you comment, "Corn me up, snake." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.